Yeah, the former king of Elbaf, King Harold, might have had an extra son in Kaido with the way he looked compared to Hiruden and Loki. Kaido wasn't just the star of the longest arc in One Piece Wano, he was also built up since the beginning of the New World Punk Hazard, and Dressrosa's final villain Doflamingo was scared of him, and Dressrosa was a 100 chapter arc. Then there's also Zou, where his underling Jack was causing havoc, and also the first man with a billion berry bounty. But it's not just the hype with Kaido, it's also his feats, from one-shotting Luffy and Curry to defeating the Red Scabbards with ease, to defeating a Konkerazaki coated base Luffy, to handling his daughter Yamato after being scarred by Zoro's Ashura Konkerazaki coated attack, to fighting Luffy peak gear 4th mixed in with Konkerazaki coating, to fighting Luffy's peak gear 5 and peak Luffy in general that had advanced armored haki plus Konkerazaki coating that impressed Kaido. That's what it took to take him down, and his last choice was to clash with Luffy's Bajirang gun when he could have easily won by not confronting it, showing Kaido to have true Elbaf spirit. So let's do a deep dive on his ancient giant connection and how this actually revolves around what's going to happen in Elbaf and after Elbaf as well. One thing that I always wanted Oda to explore more was Kaido's special race, and the reason is because Oda kind of explored it during the Onigashima raid when he was fighting Yamato, telling Yamato, "You are the child of an Oni, not meant to be friends with humans," showing that Kaido has some knowledge on his background, his race, and what it means to be an Oni. I also found it interesting, right before the Onigashima raid actually began in the rooftop, Marco said to Perospero that our mutual goal of destroying the Oni is no more, showing that Marco knows Kaido's origins and where he comes from and how it's important. I remember during the Kozuki Oden flashback, Kaido made a very significant statement saying that Goldie, Roger, and Whitebeard were mighty pirates but soft in their way. And the reason why this is interesting because Kaido has a way that shows violence. It reminds me of the old Elbaf ways. And King asked Kaido a very important question. Can you change the world we live in? And Kaido said, I'm the only one who can change it. Now this is obviously revolving around Joy Boy. And Joy Boy, Nika, is all obviously connected to the Elbaf. Kaido even questions him being Joy Boy, and King says he knows. It's kind of like King knows Kaido's not Joy Boy, but he just owes him his life, so it just continues to be the strongest, is what King pretty much tells Kaido. This is different from Loki, who's trying to be Nika, aka trying to be a descendant of Joy Boy, whereas Kaido is accepting he's not Joy Boy, and I think that's cool. We even learned so much about Kaido in his flashback that people tend to dismiss because it was so short. The fact that he was an ultimate soldier at the age of 10. Kaido also questioned the Celestial Dragons, and his country traded him to the Navy for a Reverie guest spot, and he was only 13 when this happened. It makes you think about how recently in Elbaf, how Loki is insulting the Celestial Dragons, and Loki was also a monster at a young age too. Definitely could be connected to them being related with the ancient giant blood in their veins. Kaido also used the Marines as a cafeteria whenever he was hungry to get captured, and at 16, pretty much Rocks wanted to meet him. One of the greatest pirates. If the greatest foe of Roger wants to meet you at the age of 16, that means something to me. At the age of 25, he wanted to bring the noble-born rulers to the battlefield to see what was actually going down. And wants a world where only war decides a man's true worth that's what he calls freedom. This man's old spirit of Elbaf, he defines Elbaf, and he was in the Wano arc, which makes it funny. And Kaido even tells King at the end of the Luffy battle, kind of at the same time of a flashback happening, he tells King that Joy Boy is the man who will beat me, as Luffy hits a Bajirang gun to his face. And the fact that Kaido knows that he's going to have to oppose Joy Boy rather than all the giants in Elbaf who want to be Joy Boy is a very interesting concept. And to me, it also brings to the question, if Joy Boy and Nika has to do with the giants in Elbaf, maybe there's an opposition that has to do with Giants of Elbaf as well. We even see when Kaido's first introduced, he's looking for a place to die. And pretty much he likes to do suicide, that's his hobby, by jumping off a sky island. He attempts to do suicide by jumping off a sky island. Kaido definitely has some sort of infatuation with death. He even says, the narrator says, nobody could kill him, including himself. And as a hobby, it was suicide that he tried to do as a hobby because he never can kill himself. And that's why he got caught so many times. And when Kaido's first introduced, he says Whitebeard did it right. And he says, let this dreary world be destroyed. Let's start the greatest war the world has ever seen. The fact that Kaido has this pessimistic view on the world and wants destruction of the world, and Nika's always been invoked whenever the world's been destroyed, Kaido definitely seems to hate how the world is, but instead of changing it through laughter and smiles like how Nika is, He wants to change it with destruction, how some people view Nika, that some of the people in Elbaf view him as a warrior of destruction rather than a warrior of liberation. Kaido even says he loves a sense of determination and the way of the samurai in general, and says Roger and Whitebeard did it right when it comes to Roger being executed in front of the world starting the Great Pirate Era, and Whitebeard being executed during the Marineford War and saying the One Piece is real, because they went out with a bang. And then Kaido's one of his most iconic lines in Wano: death is what completes a person. So let's end this right now. Kaido saying this to the Red Scabbards to me was really hype because it's Elbaf spirit that I'm seeing multiple times in Kaido. It's a pattern that I'm seeing, and I think it's not because Kaido has some sort of connection to Elbaf. I think it's because his blood has a connection to Elbaf. Even when Kaido is pretty much about to execute Kozuki Oden, he tells him that pretty much the hour where Kozuki Oden was being boiled, the hour of legends, Kaido says to them that's a spectacular death, and they're going to speak about it for years to come. Kaido gave the utmost respect to how Kozuki ended his life. Kaido even told Oden that he killed the Kurozumi old lady that distracted during the battle, and this is a big deal because that lady was a big influence in how Kaido was moving. So the fact that he killed her because he just didn't like how the fight ended with Kozuki Oden, and he also apologized, it kind of reminded me how Akainu apologized to Kizaru when he was ranting. But it also shows Kaido's respect for the Elbaf warrior customs that we've been learning since the beginning of the Little Garden. That's how early we've been learning about the brave warrior of the seas and their customs. And then we can even look at Kaido's crew. Kaido's crew has different races when it comes to Sasaki of the Toboropo as a fishman, or Jack, who looks to be a half fishman as well. And then of course we also look at King, who's a Lunarian. Kaido has different races, and him himself is an Oni. I think definitely can trace back to the ancient giant race when it comes to Kaido. There's also the whole fact of the numbers as well. The numbers are artificial giants from Punk Hazard, and they're pretty much they were a failure. That's what Big Mom said. They were supposed to be like the ancient giants from back in the day, and they were a failure. It kind of explains Big Mom's obsession with Kaido from a young age till all the way up to Wano. Like we even seen it during the Egghead Island flashback of God Valley. Big Mom was pretty much telling Kaido to relax when he was talking about Roger. Big Mom always had like that overseeing role with Kaido and always wanted Kaido to do good in a sense and watch over Kaido, and I think that's because of his connection, his ancient giant blood connection that Big Mom knows about, because she has all the races in Hokage Island except one race, the giant race. And then there's also the parallels that Oda obviously put in front of our face. Right before Marineford, Kaido wanted to go and Shanks stopped him, and also Shanks became a Yonko by defeating Loki. The parallels are right in front of our face, and 6 years ago Shanks did this, so I think that you gotta respect it. And then there's Whitebeard and Roger. Pretty much, they probably had a relationship with King Harold because they had a relationship with King Neptune and Fishman Island. And I feel like King Harold back in the day was probably a legendary giant warrior with his horns, and he was just a powerful character. And with Scopper Gavan also being on Elbaf, this meaning Oda does want Elbaf like not to be secluded like Wano. I think that there definitely is a connection here that can be brought up. And then there's the Buccaneer blood as well when it comes to Kuma, and maybe even Blackbeard, because Saturn and Katori Devon kind of hint at Blackbeard having a special race. So if Buccaneer bloods, Ivankov said it comes from the Giants, there's definitely a connection here. And then there's Imu. Imu goes to look at this vault and sees a huge straw hat. And we know there's a Willie D member that has a D, that's Jaguar D Saul. So Giants have to do with the Willie D and the Void Sentry. But this huge straw hat, could it belong to Joy Boy? Could it belong to the original Nika that's being talked about? Regardless, this huge straw hat is a big deal. And I think when it comes to the whole Kaido King connection and the original Nika and the ancient giant blood, this all has to do with it. And then there's the most recent chapter, chapter 1137, where it says that King Harold was a renowned warrior, and he had ancient giant blood, and he was larger and stronger than most, and he ripped off his horns. The strongest Elbaf king of all time ripped off his horns and got the respect by Zoro. Zoro respected it. Like, this guy's very determined. And for him to be this legendary, imagine he's connected to Kaido in some way. The reason why I'm so into this Kaido ancient giant blood theory speculation is also because of Thriller Bark, where we had Oz during Thriller Bark, and we know Moria fought Kaido on Wano, and then Moria went to get Ryuma, Shisui, and of course Captain John and some of the other Rocks members, and Oz, this amazingly strong ancient giant. Maybe he knew something about Kaido, and that's why he told Luffy you can never be Kaido when it comes to the Yonko, that thing. I think Mori knows Kaido's connection to the ancient giant blood. And then there's the fact that Ace made Oz Jr. a Wano hat, another foreshadowing by Oda, because Wano was run by Kaido. Plus, Rhodes said that they're bigger and stronger, and maybe the half-breed ancient giants and Oz Jr. was causing, like, let's be honest here, if they're bigger and stronger than regular giants, the half-breeds have to be extremely strong as well. And then there's Oz Jr. who's causing havoc on Marineford, and then there's Kaido, the strongest creature alive. I won't be surprised if Oda reveals Kaido's lore and might even connect it to his daughter Yamato back in the story. And honestly, I think Kaido coming back to Elbaf would be a little crazy, but after Elbaf, I don't mind. Big Mom is more so Elbaf, and I think Big Mom can also explain Kaido a little bit too. But yeah, debate in the comment section if you disagree.